It's Mental Health Awareness Week this week, so I wanted to make a video about a condition which often doesn't get talked about, but it's complex PTSD. I was diagnosed with it about 5 years ago. Before that, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So it was a real breakthrough to actually find out that, look, I'm not broken. I just have a condition that I need to work with and learn how to cope and then grow from it, really. And that's what I've been doing. So I wanted to share 5 things that I've done that I think have really, really helped me, and I hope that they help you too in your own struggles. So the first thing was the kind of realization of that I actually had it. I think because I'd been sort of dismissed as just having anxiety, a lot of the things that I was doing just didn't work or they weren't sustainable. But then I started to follow people like Bessel von der Kalk, Gabor Mate, Tim Fletcher, who are experts in the field, and Pete Walker wrote a great book, actually, Surviving to Thriving, about his experiences with CPTSD. So I started to look into it, and eventually I got my formal diagnosis, but it was like, okay, I finally know what's going on inside me. So I started to really make it my journey to learn about what was going to help me learn about my body, learn about my nervous system, learn about my mind, really, and how it all worked together. So it was hard, and I think I was really forced into a situation of, look, do I want to be here anymore? Do I want to deal with this, or what's the alternative? And I didn't like the alternative. And so, I had no choice but to go, okay, this is what I've got. So the first thing is, yeah, realizing that you have it. And how do you know you've got it? Well, the thing about complex PTSD is it differs from normal standard PTSD. What makes it different is that there is both developmental trauma over a sustained period, and that could be for down to abuse, attachment wounds, um, and then event-based trauma, so something that happens. So I had both, and also the third element is having a strong inner critic. Something that really, holds you back because there's a lot of blame in there about I have this trauma, so it's my fault. I did something wrong. Um, and the developmental trauma for me was growing up gay in a very straight world in a small town in the 70s and 80s in the UK, and feeling like I had to hide my identity and edit myself for fear of being found out and then literally banished from the crowd. And so that was tough. That was really hard to deal with. But also, like everybody else, it's difficult to get through life without having some trauma, like, loss of a parent, for example. I had a couple of medical things happen. But the biggest thing was I had a real scare with some hallucinogenic drugs that just blew my head apart, really. And reality seemed very different after that point. Um, so each journey is different, and it can affect you in all sorts of ways, different symptoms ranging from anxiety, obsessive thinking, uh, sensations in your nervous system, or even just physiological problems as well. It can manifest in chest pain, for example, IBS. There are all sorts of different ways that it could show up. If you've got it, you can feel very trapped and very alone in it. And I don't want you to feel like that, because you're not, because it's a lot more common than people understand and think about. So, so the first thing is, yeah, is realization and understanding and acceptance that I've got it and I'm going to work on it. The second thing is my inner child. So I know it's a bit of a woo-woo speak, oh, the inner child, everybody talks about that. But there's usually the root of the trauma is in childhood, something that happened to us. We felt scared, and so we retreated into freeze mode. So it's getting in touch with that child again through various means, having conversations with it, doing it through therapy. I put a photo out of myself when I was 6 years old to really nurture and notice that little kid every day. So the third thing is mindfulness. I became a mindfulness practitioner, and it can be challenging, mindfulness with PTSD, because you're in such a fight or flight response state. But actually, learning to work with it. The idea is not about pushing thoughts away. It's about relating with your mind in a very present way, and also using the body. So I use some somatic experiences as well, which is learning to work with the body. Things like yoga, for example, are really good for that. Just have some water, drink water as well. Um, so yeah, some somatic practices. You can find somatic healers. There's a lot out there, but doing something, trauma is held within the body, really. That's why, great book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel von der Kolk, if you want to check him out. It's what he talks about. We're like a record, we're like a tree in a way, with different layers, and everything is stored, memories are stored, and they kind of get stuck there. So we've got to free them up. The fourth thing was setting boundaries, and being open about my condition. So making sure that, not hiding myself away, but if I needed to leave something early or whatever, that I was actually fine with that. And I didn't feel guilt around it, which is I used to feel that, like, oh God, I'm going to be the weird friend. But no, just being really clear about what your boundaries are, and being open as well with friends has really helped me. And the final thing is building self compassion. Now, this is the most important thing. Having trauma, quite a lot of us experience almost like a trauma bond. And there's a lot of inner brutality, going back to the inner critic, within us. The way we talk to ourselves, the blame sometimes, is it's not easy, but we've got to start being more compassionate with the language we use to ourselves, not just what we do on the outside, going for massages, going for long walks, doing stuff in nature, picking your crowd, your tribe, your friends, but also it's about the inside. It's about having a compassionate dialogue with ourselves. So Gabor Mate, it's just brilliant. Check him out. But Gabor Mate talks about having that compassionate inner self-inquiry is the key to this, really. Is we get curious about it, we start to learn about our body and how our nervous system works, what the triggers are, how we can deal with that, the techniques, which I'm going to be sharing in future videos, but some of the breath work that I've done, some of the somatic experiencing that I've done, that's been really helpful. So those 5 4 things, just to recap: realizing that you've got it, working with the inner child, somatic and mindfulness practices, setting clear boundaries and being open, and then finally building self-compassion. And that for me is probably the most important. Um, so I hope this is useful to you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what your own experiences have been like, and what you've tried and what's helped you.